Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for being here. We would like to spend a couple minutes to discuss some of the research the foundation have done in this important topic. The foundation has been doing a lot of research for past several years around looking for those critical areas that are important for the development of the destination. And one of the critical areas is obviously technology and how technology is being leveraged by the destination and by the service providers of the tourism ecosystem. So with that in mind, a couple of years ago we started looking into this area, knowing how important technology it was going to be for the destination. You heard from Ron and from John how disruptive technology has been on the travelers' cycle, and how it's disrupting how they get inspired, how they plan, and how they actually experience the destination. So with that in mind, we wanted to see how Puerto Rico, we wanted to provide a local context of how local service providers were adapting to this new changing in technology. So one of the first things we saw a couple of years ago, we started looking into what research has been done on how technology is being leveraged by service providers. And this is a survey done by Connect Puerto Rico, as a local NGO, on how service providers and SMEs are really leveraging and using technology. And you can see that these were some of the initial insights that were presenting some worries to the foundation as it relates to how the destination can better be equipped to adapt to the changes in technology. As you can see, the mobile broadband and businesses leveraging the website for e-commerce and for marketing was pretty low. So those are things that we started looking into. Obviously, in the visitor economy, the numbers are lower. So that led to the foundation to do a little more deep dive. So we decided to go to the field, right? So we have a very important gastro corridor in San Juan and Santurce, La Calle Loíza. For those of you that are from Puerto Rico are probably very familiar with the Calle Loíza commercial district. And we wanted to see how service providers were really adapting and were embracing online platforms and technology to conduct their operations. So we did a full inventory of businesses in the Calle Loíza. This is the breakdown of the businesses, somewhere in the food and beverage. It's a lot of retail Calle Loíza, although it's known for a gastro district. There's a lot of retail in this district. So these are some of the things that we found. We looked to each of the service providers. We wanted to see if they were in the online platforms and how much engagement they were having with these online platforms, and for visitors that were interacting with these online platforms. And you can see we tested these three platforms, Yelp, TripAdvisor, and Google. And there's a couple of interesting insights from this initial survey that we did a couple years ago. And one of them, that really comes to mind is TripAdvisor. So TripAdvisor is a more traditional, tourism travel platform related to Google and Yelp that are heavily used by the local market. So the use of TripAdvisor was far lower in the Calle Loíza than the online platforms, and that tells us that when we started talking to the business owners, that there was little awareness in some cases about the importance of visitors for their, the growth of their business. So they were mainly focused on local market and local residents. So they were not that interested in TripAdvisor, and that was correlated, but some of them were not that interested in visitors in general. So there was some work that needed to be done in creating awareness and appreciation about the importance of visitors for SMEs in this particular corridor. The other thing is retail. Retail, as you can see, was far below all the other types of products and services. And this, when we talked to the retail business owners, it was very apparent that a lot of these business owners didn't feel part of the visitor economy. So they didn't think that it was important. They were even more focused on local consumption. So there was even more work that needed to be done, because as you know, and all you know, that retail is a very important component of the visitor experience. So if the retail sector is not really feeling that they're part of the ecosystem, that there's some work that needs to be done with that particular sector of the economy. So we also we started seeing a lot of interesting things when we did this analysis. We were seeing errors between platforms, so information that was in TripAdvisor was not the same that was in Google, or was not the same in Yelp. So that started creating more curiosity of how these platforms were really relating to each other when it comes to information. So as a result of that, we decided to do a little more research beyond Calle Loiza. And as you'll hear today, the foundation has been working for the last couple of years in building this big data warehouse with information about all the visitor economy assets in Puerto Rico. And you'll hear from Damaris, which will explain to you a little bit more about the project. But since we have this big data warehouse with all this information about assets in Puerto Rico, we wanted to expand the scope of our original research in Calle Loiza, and we wanted to see how other service providers were adapting and were engaging with technology. So we created a sample. There's over 10,000 visitor economy assets on the foundation's platform. So we did a sample, a representative sample of 100 business providers from that data warehouse. This was there was in several municipalities across Puerto Rico, different regions of the island. This is the breakdown of the whole database, which we'll hear a little bit from Damaris, but our sample was also represented from the universe of assets that we have on the data warehouse. So I wanted to show some of the results of that analysis that we did. We wanted to know how these service providers were engaging with technology and online platforms. And there's very interesting information here. You can see that one of the things that really struck a tone on us was the email. There's really a lack of emails in some of these online platforms. These service providers in the gastro retail sector just don't really feel the need to have an email to communicate with potential consumers, and that, as you know, it's a challenge. And email is still an important way of communicating for reservation. There was very little e-commerce around a lot of these service providers, so that was also a very interesting insight that we found. And no website. There was a lot of providers that didn't have a website. So we started looking into more. We wanted to deep dive beyond how some of the service providers were engaging with the actual platform. So one thing is if they have presence in some of these online platforms, and the other question is, are they engaging with the platforms? So this is the engagement. As you can see, there's more engagement with Facebook and Google, but TripAdvisor, again, it's below all the other platforms, and that again, puts the theory that some of the service providers don't see tourism as an opportunity for growth in their business. This is an important data point, because when we talk in the next slide about some of the discrepancies we were seeing and some of the little engagement we're seeing service providers with online customers. This is one of the things that really struck the most. So Google has a lot of information about some of the assets in Puerto Rico, but only 25% of those service providers, the business owner has claimed their business. So all the other service providers, are integrated in the platform through crowdsourcing, which is a very good tool to get a lot of data online. But at the end of the day, as you see, it could really have an effect on having accurate information and having actual engagement with potential visitors. So this is one of the things that also was sort of worrying when we started looking at the data. There was a lot of reviews on some of these platforms, and there was very little engagement, particularly with bad reviews. So only 7% of bad reviews were being answered by the service provider, and that can be related to the low percentage of businesses that were claimed. If you don't have a business owner that's claiming the website, the asset, then it's less likely for them to actually engage with reviewers. But as you can see, very low numbers in TripAdvisor, in Google, Facebook, because it has been more a local way of marketing to local residents, has higher numbers. But this was very worrying, because as you'll hear from some of the companies here engaging with reviewers and with visitors and potential visitors is very important. And if you're not, then a bad review can have a real detrimental effect in your ability to attract new visitors to your business. And this is some of the activity. I mean, this is more data. I'm not going to go through all this because it's a lot of information. But bottom line is that there was a lot of very little engagement. We did a year-long analysis of how much engagement these business owners were having with reviewers and with the online community. Is very low, very low. Sometimes it could be months without any activity on a business owner's online platform account. So you can have visitors going in, and when visitors don't see activity, you can imagine if you travel, if you go to a website, you don't see any activity for 6-8 months, then you start making assumptions about if the place is open or if it's good because no one's actually going there. So the lack of activity and engagement of business owners with their online platforms is a challenge that we must address, and it's worrying if we want to really expand the scope of business owners and enhance their probability of attracting new visitors. And this is, we assume that all the information that's online is the same, and that is a problem. We saw in Calle Loiza that there was a lot of discrepancies between the information. As you can see, this is the percentage of information that is the same across platforms. And it's very worrying that, and you can see the next slide, also, there's a lot of mistakes. And some of these mistakes are critical. It's not just a word in the name. Sometimes the mistakes are the phone number, which is important. You know, if you have the wrong phone number, Google has one phone number, TripAdvisor has another phone number. And that's a very problematic because if you're a visitor, you're confused, and you go and you call, there's no answer. So that was a big challenge that we found that needed to be addressed. And also hours of operation. This is critical. You have businesses that have hours of operation in one website, they have different hours of operation in another website. You can imagine if you're a visitor and you go to TripAdvisor and it says that you're open on Mondays, and you go and take an Uber and get there and it's closed, how disappointing can that be for your visitor, and how can it really affect your experience in the destination. It can affect the whole experience you have. You start making assumptions about, oh, here people, you know, they don't know what they're doing, and it can really have a detrimental effect in your experience in the destination. So hours of operation was another of the pieces of information that was inaccurate across online platforms. There was a lot of missing information. As you can see, like I said before, there was a lot of errors across platforms, phone numbers, websites, emails, hours of operation. So this is an area that we found that needs to be addressed. It's one of the challenges some of these SMEs are having with embracing online platforms and technology. So in conclusion, so we are obviously are working in addressing some of these challenges. Damaris will talk to you a little bit about some of the things we're doing to address some of these challenges. And we're also working with communities to try to create awareness and appreciation of our technology and about online digital presence, because it's really it's about that. You know, technology can do so many things, but at the end of the day, there's people that's behind it. So if we don't think about people, then we can make some assumptions about certain things. So we need to create we need to insert that awareness on business owners so they can understand the importance of digital presence and understand the importance of visitors. And also, there's some unintended consequences. Technology has been very good for the tourism industry, and we're very happy about how the tourism has embraced technology, the industry in general, but there's some unintended consequences. So if you think about that the technology is the path for visitors to come to a destination, that you can think about how a digital divide can create some inequality with business in Puerto Rico between the big businesses that have the level of sophistication, they have the digital marketers, they have the data analytic tools that some of these SMEs don't have. So if we don't help level the playing field between SMEs and bigger companies that are better at leveraging technology, then we are going to create not just a digital divide, just an economic divide between the bigger companies and the smaller companies. So there is an intended strategy to level the playing field using digital presence, because as you heard from Ron and you'll hear from today, that is the way forward for current and future visitors. And also, like John has indicated in the past, I mean, anyone that has gone through many of the places in Puerto Rico know that how many big assets, important assets, like, you know, kayaking services and agriculture and some of these beautiful things we have on the island. If we're not able to incorporate all those experiences and all those assets, we're really shortchanging the perception that Puerto Rico is having with potential visitors. So if we want to really compete, the best way to compete is we are able to provide visibility to all those beautiful and amazing experiences we have to the island that are beyond the metropolitan area. So those are our two intended strategies that we have to try to minimize the digital divide between the bigger companies and the SMEs in Puerto Rico, and also to help enhance the perception that Puerto Rico has many things to offer, and that could really enhance the two key areas on the traveler's cycle, which is inspiring and also planning. So if the travelers know that there's many things to do in Orocovis, in Lajas, in Aguadilla, they're more likely to plan for a longer trip. The longer trip, the more likely we have maximized the tourism consumption and the economic impact of their stay.